Where do you find your instruments?
You know, I get lucky. I had another horn when I was a student. It was a good horn, nothing like that. And one day, I dropped it, and so took it to the repair shop and figured that that would be a good time to maybe switch up in terms of horns.
Right.
And just a guy, this was in Europe, it was in Holland, and just a guy that I knew there. He was really, you have these guys who like kind of collect horns. They like buy any horn they can find,
Right.
fix them up, sell them, you know. He's a
Right.
good player himself. That was kind of his sideline, was horns. And I heard that he had this balanced action, what they said was a balanced action. So I went and checked it out and played it, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out it's before the balanced action. So I think what they call the radio improved. There's a little bit of debate in terms of serial numbers and when, but it doesn't matter. It was a great horn. So I bought it. I bought it cheap.
Mm-hmm.
I bought it for about $1,000.
Okay.
So I've spent the horn ever since.
Selling.
Yeah. But I sold my old tenor and the alto that I had, which I wasn't really playing, basically pay for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then this horn here, I bought on eBay.
Did you really?
Yeah. Yeah, about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And it was one of those, pictures look good.
Right.
Horn looked good. And there was a guy selling it in a hurry, and I got it for $900.
Okay.
And they're both like vintage Selmer horns. And it's a coincidence that they're both silver. I like the silver.
Yeah.
And so it arrived, not knowing what condition it was going to be in really great condition. A few little dings, but the pads all playable, everything good about it. And the cool thing was that it arrived in the original case.
Get out.
Which was like, the sort of like faux alligator kind of thing.
Right.
And it had all of these like hotel stickers on it from the Pacific Northwest. Like a nice kind of burgundy to purple lining, felt, not felt, but more like what do you call that? Like a velour kind of lining,
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. But I couldn't slip that case around, so I had to give up the case for it. But it's still a nice little set piece in my house. That case is a beautiful thing. It feels great,
Yeah.
Old horns have a little bit of a, they're not technically as easy to play as some of the newer horns. They fix some of the technique on it. And this horn is before. The difference between this horn and that horn is that this horn, all the key work is on one side here, and then this key work is separate here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not in the same line. So it's, you kind of have different fulcrum points. And this is where they first started to balance it. Hence, it led to what was called the balanced action, where they basically put all of that key work in a single line, so it's all in the same fulcrum point. It's easier to play.
Okay.
It's a smoother kind of thing. I guess what they call the balanced action was about. I'm not so up on the dates and serial numbers and stuff like that, but probably about 5 years later or so, early 40s, late 30s, early 40s, I think, is when they started calling them balanced actions, and then super balanced action, and then the fabled Mark VI horns came after that. But I like these old horns, They feel good. That horn's got a slightly smaller neck bore, and so it's a little bit tighter. It's a little more compact. I heard somebody once describe it as when you play it, it feels like it has frets on it. So the notes kind of pop out as you go up and down.
Right.
So it's just a different feel. So I like it, and of course I'm so used to it now.
I heard that. Yeah.
Hope I don't ever have to switch again.
Dig
Some
that.
cats are real like changing mouthpieces and buying new horns and stuff all the time and fussing about that, trying to find the thing they like. I feel like I just got lucky, Either that or I'm not picky. I don't know. One of the two. Maybe it's more that than anything else.
Right.
I'm gonna have to try another one of those today.
So where'd you study?
I started off at New England Conservatory in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really the only school I applied to, only one I wanted to go to. And I was there, and it was a little disappointing, because I went there as nothing really against the school, it just wasn't a good fit for me, I think. Because I went there as a classical major, and I'd heard about, Herbie Hancock and Phil Woods and all those guys would go and just would go to school, do
Right.
classical programs,
Right.
and play jazz. And I thought that was a good way to get, what I wanted,
Mhm.
and it was, but it was just a little limiting. I got to play in the big band for a semester or so, but I got to do some orchestra stuff and study with the classical guy there. But just because of the way they had it compartmentalized, I couldn't really cross over very easily from one to the other, and do kind of a little bit of everything. They had sort of a classical thing here, there was a jazz thing here, and then what they call the third stream over here. So it just wasn't a good fit. And after about 2 years, I felt like I was ready to do a change. And this is actually a good story. I'll tell you this one. I had to play a Glatzenhoff saxophone quartet, right? And I'd never a recording of it that I knew of. And then I remembered I had this LP that I had gotten for a birthday present or something when I was in high school, and had never even opened. Still had the plastic on it, of the Netherlands saxophone quartet. And it had that Glatzenhoff quartet on it that I needed to check out because we were going to play it. And I checked it out, and I was just really digging how they did it, and really liking the soprano player, the lead player of the quartet. So I read the liner notes, and it says it's a guy named Leo van Oostrom. It said on the record that he taught at the Rotterdam Conservatory. So I wrote him a letter. I took out like a Who's Who book or something like that, and found out the address of the conservatory and all that stuff, and just sent him a letter saying, I'd like to study with you. Because it also, in the liner notes, it said he was also known as like a free jazz player as well. And I thought, well, that's the guy for me. He plays the classical stuff, and he can do all that stuff. So that sounds really cool, and I really like the way he played. So I wrote him a letter. He wrote back and said, send me something. So I made a little recording, sent it off to him. Oh, but the letter went to the Rotterdam Conservatory, but he was now teaching in The Hague. So it was forwarded and actually made that loop. So I sent it to him, and he finally wrote back and said, well, come and see me, because I was going to just do a summer in Europe, to clear my head and, figure out what I was going to do next. And so I went to Europe and made my way to Amsterdam. I looked him up, and he finagled a place for me at the university, at the conservatory. It's the Royal Conservatory in The Hague. And so I did a part-time year there, and then kind of auditioned into sort of a jazz program there. And the thing that was cool about that is that even if you were a jazz studies major, you still would take classical lessons on your instrument, so you just combine the whole thing. So that was just wonderful. And of course, being in Europe, it's a complete different thing than being in, say, Boston, where you've got like 800 saxophone players at Berkeley, and everybody's vying to get a gig here and there, and there's just too many people.
Right.
There, the scene is wide open. Every little town has got some kind of jazz club, something going on. There's festivals, just so much more accessible scene. So I stayed there for 4 years and finished off a 6-year program. So my last 3 years were. And then in a somewhat dubious decision, I came back. Not that I'm sad about that, but you sort of start all over again,
Right, right.
And so those, you get to those kind of crossroad points where it's like, okay, I'm either going to stay here in Europe and sort of continue to work myself into the scene, which is going well and all that stuff, or I come back here and start all over again in a much harder scenario. But that's what I did.
I hear you.
It was time to sort of give this side of the ocean another chance.
What year was that when you came back?
89.
Okay.
So 21 years I've been back.
Yeah. Solid.
Yeah, I think, within 5 years I had a good university teaching gig and was playing and getting involved in stuff.
Yeah.